Ever feel like finding a good developer is like trying to catch a unicorn,
Uh-huh, I can see that.
especially when you need, someone with a really specific skills, someone who can handle a particular operating system, like let's say Solaris.
Yes.
Yeah. So today we're doing a mini deep dive into Solaris developers. If you've ever thought about hiring one, you are in the right place. We'll cover the most frequently asked questions, the key skills to look for, and even where to find these kind of hidden gems in the tech world. Oh, and I almost forgot. Quick tip before we really get started, theperfectdeveloper.com. They're kind of like matchmakers, but for businesses and developers. Definitely go check out their 5 questions quiz after this. It's a great way to kick off your search for the perfect developer.
I've heard good things about them.
But first, let's get back to the basics. What exactly is Solaris, and why is it still relevant today?
Solaris, well, it's a Unix-based operating system. It's known for being super reliable, especially in like high-stakes
High
situations.
stakes, like what?
Think finance, telecommunications, critical infrastructure, that sort of thing.
So security and reliability are key here.
Absolutely. It's the backbone of a lot of essential systems.
Okay, so it's not some outdated technology then. But if it's so important, why are these Solaris developers so hard to find?
Well, it comes down to it being a very niche skill set. Solaris isn't as common as, say, Linux, and you're often dealing with legacy systems. ThePerfectDeveloper.com actually points this out a lot. It means there are just fewer developers out there with that deep, specialized knowledge.
So the talent pool is pretty small. All right, they're rare. Got it. But what makes them so special? What are the superpowers we should be looking for?
Oh, these developers, they're masters of very specific tools. Tools like dtrace, which helps analyze system performance, down to the tiniest detail.
Wow, that's impressive.
And then there's ZFS, a file system designed for like rock-solid data integrity and massive scalability.
So they're like surgeons operating at the operating system level.
Yeah, pretty much.
That does sound pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So given these specialized skills, what about salary? What kind of numbers are we talking about here?
Well, that depends on a bunch of things. Obviously, experience and location play a big role. But according to theperfectdeveloper.com, a junior Solaris developer could start somewhere between, let's say, $60,000 and $80,000 per year,
Sure.
while a truly seasoned expert could easily command $120,000 or more.
So not exactly entry-level pay. All right, so you've got your budget figured out. Where do you actually find these developers?
Well, theperfectdeveloper.com is definitely a great starting point.
Right.
But you can also, explore niche tech communities, maybe some job boards like LinkedIn or Indeed. And don't forget about freelance platforms, places like Upwork. Sometimes you find those hidden gems in the most unexpected places.
So it's all about knowing where to look. All right, so you found some potential candidates. What are the absolute must-have skills you should be looking for on a resume?
Definitely look for solid Solaris administration experience. That's a given. And then strong Unix and shell scripting skills. But don't overlook soft skills, things like communication, especially when you're dealing with these intricate systems.
Right.
You need someone who can explain complex stuff clearly, even to those of us who aren't quite as tech savvy.
Yeah, because a brilliant developer who can't communicate is, well, kind of useless.
Yeah.
Before we get into some red flags and alternative options, though, let's take a quick break.
Hmm.
So back to finding that perfect Solaris developer. Are there any red flags you should be watching out for during interviews?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think the biggest one is when someone overstates their skills.
Right.
Like if they claim they can do it all but can't give you any specific examples, that's a big red flag.
Makes sense.
You really got to dig deeper, ask them for details about their actual experience with Solaris,
Hmm.
and don't be afraid to kind of challenge them a little bit, see how they respond.
So it's a bit like being a detective looking for those little inconsistencies or gaps in their story.
Exactly.
And I think it goes without saying, but reference checks, those are crucial.
Oh, absolutely. References can be so valuable. Talking to a previous employer can really give you insights into a candidate's real experience,
Right.
their work ethic, how they function in a team,
Yeah.
things you wouldn't necessarily get from just a resume.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be realistic for a minute. What if, even after doing all of this, you just can't find that perfect Solaris developer? What are the alternatives?
Well, and if finding that perfect candidate is tough, it doesn't mean you're out of options.
Okay, good.
One thing you could consider is looking within your existing team.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe you've got some talented Linux or Windows folks who could be trained in Solaris.
So like upskilling your current team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It might require an investment up front for training and all that, but it could be a good strategy in the long run. Another option is to think about hiring consultants for those short-term projects you might have.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
That way, you get the specialized expertise you need without having to commit long-term.
And that could be especially helpful for companies that have, projects that fluctuate a lot.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need a specific skill set for a limited time, and consultants can provide that flexibility.
Speaking of flexibility, what about outsourcing? Is that a viable option for finding Solaris talent?
Oh, yeah. Outsourcing can definitely be a good option. It lets
Yeah.
you tap into a global pool of talent, and it can often be more cost effective.
Right.
But it is really important to choose a reputable provider with a solid track record in Solaris development. You don't want to just pick anyone.
That makes sense. Would theperfectdeveloper.com be able to help with that at all?
Actually, yeah, they can. They can help connect you with reliable outsourcing partners.
Oh, that's great. So they're not just about individual developers, but they can also help companies find those bigger partnerships.
Yeah, they really seem to understand the whole landscape of tech hiring,
Hmm.
and they try to offer solutions for a wide range of situations.
That's fantastic. So even if finding a dedicated Solaris developer feels a bit overwhelming, there are still paths you can explore.
Exactly. The important thing is to think it through, assess your needs, and come up with a plan.
All right, so you've given our listeners a lot to consider today, from understanding just how rare these Solaris developers are to navigating the hiring process and even exploring these alternatives. What's one final piece of advice you would offer to someone starting this search for Solaris talent?
I'd say don't be intimidated by the challenge. Finding the right Solaris developer might take a bit of time and effort, but with the right resources and a good strategy, you can absolutely find the right fit for your needs. And, don't forget about the perfectdeveloper.com. They can really simplify things.
It sounds like they really do take the guesswork out of finding those perfect tech matches.
They do. It's like they've taken this whole complex world of tech recruitment and made it, well, easier.
That's a great way to put it. So to everyone out there feeling a bit lost in the Solaris world, take a deep breath, do your research, explore all your options, and remember, with the right approach, you can absolutely find that perfect developer.
And hey, you never know. That perfect match might be just a few clicks away over at theperfectdeveloper.com.
It's definitely worth a look. And on that note, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into the fascinating world of Solaris developers. We hope you found this information helpful and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
And remember, finding the right developer is an investment in your business's future. Best of luck with your search.
So to wrap things up, we've really dug into why Solaris developers are so sought after and what makes their skill set so unique.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We talked about where to find these tech ninjas and what to look for when you're actually, going through resumes and doing interviews. Plus, we even threw in some backup plans just in case that perfect candidate is proving a little elusive.
Exactly, because sometimes you got to be flexible.
Right. So, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are, maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by this whole Solaris developer search?
Well, I think the most important thing is to really assess your needs, figure out what you absolutely need versus what would be nice to have.
Right.
And of course, you've got to be realistic about your budget.
Budget is always a factor.
It is. And don't forget to think about your long-term goals. What skills will be important for your company, a year from now, 5 years from now?
That's a really good point.
Thinking ahead can really help you make the right decision.
And of course, we'd be remiss not to mention theperfectdeveloper.com one last time.
Oh, absolutely. They've been a lifesaver for so many companies.
They've really, made this whole process of finding top tech talent so much easier.
Yeah, they have.
They offer solutions for pretty much every hiring situation you can imagine.
It's true.
So if you're ready to dive into your search for a Solaris developer, or any developer for that matter, I definitely recommend starting with theperfectdeveloper.com.
Yeah. Their 5 questions quiz it's a game changer.
I've heard great things about it.
It helps you really pinpoint your needs and then connects you with the right candidates.
It's a super easy way to get started.
And it only takes a few minutes.
So to all our listeners out there, don't get discouraged by the search for a Solaris developer.
It might seem daunting at first.
But with the right approach, And with resources like theperfectdeveloper.com in your corner.
You can absolutely find that perfect match for your team.
It just takes a little effort and a little bit of patience.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And remember, finding the right developer is an investment, but it's an investment that can have a huge impact on your company's success.
Absolutely. It's about building for the future.
So head over to theperfectdeveloper.com, take that quiz, and start building your dream team today.
Good luck with your search, everyone.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of Solaris developers. We hope you found it informative